Next from the Swinton Astronomical Society, would like to welcome Lilian Hobbs as our speaker tonight. Lilian's doctorate was awarded by Southampton University for research into a software tool which automated the process of creating a codicil database from the conceptual stage through to the physical design. The first days with databases involved building the largest codicil database in Europe, and over the years she was fortunate to have worked on many systems that you probably use daily and take for granted. She was a founder of Database Evolution Limited, a company which specialized in providing the right database solution for a particular purpose. And over 30 years, Lilian worked on a wide variety of computer databases, including Viscous, Greenplum, Oracle, and many others. At Oracle, she was responsible for a number of features in the Oracle database, which were developed either at Oracle's headquarters in San Francisco or at the New England Development Center in New Hampshire in the USA, although she was located on the south coast of England. Lilian also developed Oracle's ILM strategy, which pioneered using the database as the platform for ILM rather than a storage device. Lilian is known for reminding people that whenever somebody tells you the computer did it, it only does what a human told it to do. Today, Lilian is a lady of leisure, spending her time doing photography, astronomy, motorcycling, playing golf, cycling, touring in a motorhome, volunteering for Serve Wessex, and marshalling cycle events. It doesn't sound like a lady of leisure, that, Lilian, but there you go. So can we give a big Mexborough Swinton Astronomical Society welcome to Lilian Hobbs, who's going to tell us about the Lunar 100.
Thank you, everyone. I'll just bring my presentation up. Are you seeing a screen that says observing the Lunar 100?
We are.
Perfect. Good. Excellent. Right. So, yeah, I spent all my time in IT. I got into databases quite by accident, and I'm very fortunate, really, because of my interest and in IT, and also the sort of intense nature of the work that I quite often used to do. So, for the earlier part of my career, I was always troubleshooting, but when people couldn't fix it, I was usually the person that had to go in. So I got paid quite well, and I like to save my money. And so I spent it on lots of toys. And that came into my love of astronomy, which really kicked off in 1999 with the dot-com boom and the opportunity to start doing digital imaging. So the observing the Lunar 100 came about because I had this project going I've always wanted to image all of the Messier objects, but of course, as you know, with the Messier objects, you can only do so many, and then they're not always visible, and you know, it's cloudy, and then that thing called the moon keeps coming up and getting in the way. And then I was reading this Sky and Telescope article about the Lunar 100, and I thought, oh, that sounds like a good challenge. So the Lunar 100, there was a Sky and Telescope article back in 2004, so I mean a really long time ago now, by a gentleman called Charles Wood. And he selected 100 objects on the moon that you could observe. Now, some claim it's the moon lovers equivalent of the Messier catalogue. I'll let you decide at the end. I think the 100 objects that he selected wouldn't necessarily be in my choice, but here we go. So the first thing that I had to work on was I had to get the Lunar 100 map. Now, just bearing in mind that this is 2004. So, you know, it's not the days of the internet when everything is readily online. And so here is the Lunar 100 map. Now, in order to get that map, I was very fortunate because I was working for the US company. The offices of Sky and Telescope were in Massachusetts, they were in Boston, they weren't very far for me to get to. And so I gave them a call one day when I was in the States, and I dropped in and I picked up my laminated copy of the Lunar 100 map, for which I think I had to pay, I don't know, like $7 or whatever. They were a nightmare to go visit. I visited them several times to pick up various bits and pieces and buy things, because I had to laugh. Everybody used to say to me, "Oh, Lillian, they're right by the Rotary." See, so I'd go, "Rotary? Oh, yeah, Lillian, oh, take your life in your hands, go around the Rotary. It's really dangerous." Well, the Rotary to you and I is a roundabout. And of course, the Americans didn't know how to drive this roundabout. So, because that's how I always remembered where the Sky and Telescope office was. Because when the first time I went, it says, "How'd you get on with the Rotary?" And I went, "Oh, nothing. No, it's easy. Why?" They went, "Oh, yeah, you're British." So here is the chart, right? So this is it. So you think to yourself, "Oh, okay, this is easy. So what do I need to observe this Lunar 100? Well, you need a telescope." What they said was that you didn't need a big telescope. So they were talking, 3-inch, sort of 6-inch to 8-inch. I'll let you decide what size telescope you think you need for some of these images. Obviously, you needed the Lunar 100 map. Just going back and looking at that map, as you can see, not really the easiest thing to use, particularly with the printing quality of 2004. So I would absolutely suggest either a really good lunar atlas, or as I do now, I use a moon app, and I'll show you the advantages of using the moon app. Oh, and of course, you need the moon. So what's different about this Lunar 100 list? Well, it is different to the Messier list. In theory, it says the easy objects are the low numbers. Again, I think we'll take a vote on that. As it says there, difficult objects have high numbers. Don't believe it. And the objects are scattered all over the moon. I suppose you could say that it's a bit, so is the Messier list, but they literally are scattered, which is actually another challenge. The good thing now is that if you go and Google it on the web, there are lots of good references. So that Sky and Telescope link there, and these are all come up if you put in Lunar 100. That'll give you the ability to actually print off the page now with the map on it. And there's a really nice Wikipedia page as well, which has links to the various objects. So people have been adding in there too. As I say, I worked between using, initially, all I had available was the actual laminated original sheet, which was a bit of a challenge. And I think I had some old lunar atlas. I didn't have Commander Hatfield's atlas. I think I was just being a bit of a skinflint and didn't want to buy it. But you actually did really need a really good moon atlas, which is why this is an iPad app, but I'm sure there's others available for other platforms. This is the Moon Globe app, which I really like. And I'll show you some of the advantages of using the Moon Globe app or something similar as we go through. Now, so the advantages of the Lunar 100 is that obviously you only need the moon to observe it. The good news is you don't have to wait all year to see an object, generally, although some can be a bit of a challenge, because really you've probably only got to wait a month and then you can probably catch it again. As I say, in theory, you don't need a big telescope for it. It can be fun. It can also be very frustrating trying to find some of these objects. It's also a really good chance for you to try and identify some of the lunar features. I tend to look at the moon but I never tend to remember the craters and so forth. So it was a really good exercise in trying really to familiarize yourself with the moon. And as we'll see as we go through, I found my own favorite little features. And also it's an opportunity to go crater hopping instead of star hopping, because you look at a map and you go, right, that's that one there, and that's that one there, right, and that one. Oh, okay, there it is. It's over there, and you'll see what I mean about that. So how did I take the photographs? Well, it's fair to say that you're looking at the start of the second pass with this. So when I did it in the first phase, I was very fortunate to get myself a 7-inch TMB refractor. It's only because it was, I just used it because it was, at the time, it was the main scope I had, and it was all set up for imaging. I should explain, I'm single, my house is paid for, so I don't have anybody else to spend my money on but my toys. And as my friends point out to me, you know, it's much cheaper than school fees. I initially took most of these images just using the good old Philips Toucam Pro webcam, you know, just using, you know, 50 frame AVI file. Some were at prime focus, some were using you know, 2.5 times PowerMate. I then got myself a Luminera Skynix camera, because that went up from the 640 by 480 resolution up to, I think it's a 1 megapixel camera, and I went on to just processing them in Registax, and this was primarily the setup that I had, and this was my setup that I had pretty much until about March, April time of this year, last year. I'm trying to remember. Last year, when we came out of lockdown the first time. What had happened is, so this was a Paramount ME that I had. Very fortunate, lovely story attached to how I got this secondhand. I was given a talk to somebody, and the deal was that I went up and bought it, and I had to take all the paperwork, and I wasn't even allowed in the house because he didn't want the wife to find out how much he spent on this thing, and it was brand new in the box. He'd never used it, so I got a good deal on that. I say the 7-inch refractor came from Adrian Catterall, and then I usually guide, so I have guide scope on the back. But what happened was I got the opportunity to get a Paramount ME2. Hold on, let me just see what's happened to my thing here. So I've been collecting domes in my garden. So I decided that what I wanted to do was, I had this main dome here, which was set up for imaging. I put a second dome up, which is not featured there, but I decided I wanted to set that up for solar work. And then I got the opportunity to buy one of these Sky Dome things here. And I thought, hey, you know what? This would be really good for lunar and planetary. So I found a C11 on UK Astro Ads and set this up. So what I have been starting to do is to go back, and I've been starting to re-image using the C11 here with the ZWO cameras. But in the meantime, a friend of mine had a ME2, and in a very, very mad moment when we came out of one of the lockdowns, he sold it to me. And actually, I'm really pleased because it was a really great move for me. So what I did there was, I still got my 7-inch refractor, but I just bought a little cheap from Amazon. I think it's a 102 refractor scope, which I use for guiding. And then I just got an 80mm triplet here, which I've been doing some lunar work with. And also, I've just been playing with the new Olympus Mark III camera, which has a starry focus. And I've had that up on here as well. And I had a few issues with the way that the ME balanced, whereas the ME2, touch wood at the moment, doesn't appear to give me that. So this is kind of like my second pass through as to what I'm doing. So as I say, originally everything was took with the Toucam Pro on the 7-inch refractor, but now I'm coming down and I'm starting to use the C11, and I've got a different array of ZWO cameras that I've been using. As I say, I've also been trying some of the digital, well, the mirrorless cameras as well. So what were some of the problems that I encountered while I was trying to do this? Well, first of all, the map itself isn't really very good. It obscured some of the objects. So as I said before, you really had to use a second map to help locate those objects. And that's really now made life a lot easier with the Moon app, because most of the images that I have to find are there. Sometimes, of course, as we know, the Moon gets very low, particularly for me at the moment. The Moon is incredibly low. Although I'm in a bungalow and I'm in a road of bungalows, it's just sort of getting up over the houses. And of course, that creates a lot of atmospheric distortion. I'm sure, as you're probably all aware, it may be clear at the moment, but the sky is pretty rubbish. And then we have that wonderful other problem is you get clear skies and the sky is rubbish, and well, we get no moon because of the weather. The other problem is, as we'll see, the objects, although you won't have to wait a year for them, you may have to wait a month, a certain time, because the object won't be lit, and we'll see some of those issues as well. And there is the other side to it. Some could say, when you've seen one crater, you have seen them all. I say that comment because a friend of mine many years ago, we just arrived at the Grand Canyon, and the first time ever we'd ever been to the Grand Canyon, and we got there and I said to my friend, are you not getting out to have a look? And she said, nah, when you've seen one crater, you've seen them all. And it was like, how could you say this going to the Grand Canyon? But there you go. So let's start having a look at some of these lunar objects. So the first one is the Moon, which is very easy. We all know the Moon, and try that one. And the second one they talk about is Earthshine, which I'm sure we've all seen at some time or the other. I got a funny feeling. I think this picture I actually took in Kenya, but I was just looking to think, where did I take that one? And then, of course, number 3 is just the difference between the Marias and the Highland and everything else. So, the first 3, as it were, are dead easy. So then, now remember that this is supposed to be in the order of easiest to observe. So the first thing it comes up with is there. So number 4 is the Apennines region. So yeah, nice, a nice looking area. You'll see I've got some different images here, because you can see the difference now in the resolution on some of these between using the good old little Toucam Pro webcam and now the much higher resolution cameras that we now have available. Just to give a bit of comparison for you. So 4 is the Apennines, and there's a much nicer shot. In fact, actually, the reason I got here is that's the first one is with the Toucam Pro. That's with the Luminera camera. So that's a 1 megapixel camera. And I think this is done with the 174 with the C11. Could be a bit sharp. I probably didn't have the greatest seeing conditions. But you begin to start to see the benefit too of going back and re-imaging now with much better cameras. So number 5 is Copernicus. And the thing that started to strike me when I started to image these was, I'd never really stopped and looked to see, oh, look, there's a couple of little bits in there. It really did make me start looking, and also looking at things like the shadows in the craters, because, if I come back and do this on another night, then that shadow is going to be a little bit different. So 5 is Copernicus. 6 is Tycho. Now, the other great thing about this Lunar 100 are the descriptions. So for number 6, the description is a large rayed crater with impact melts. Now, I don't know about you, but to me that sort of, reeks of an American thinking about his cheeseburger. But okay, well, that's the description there. Now, this is one of the challenges of doing this. So I've just done 6. Where is 7? So on the original map, you just got to look. And as you can see, they're everywhere. They didn't think to put a grid in or anything, or a reference point, so that you can look at the list and go, where is number 7? You see, and do you see what I mean? Look, there's 6, there's 7, there's 8, there's 64, there's 21. So it used to take me a while just to go around and find them. And as we'll see a little bit later on, one is missing that I never did locate it. So I think on the version that I had, I think they'd missed it off. And you can also start to see the other part that you've got here is that, you know, if you're looking for a bright crater, that's easy. But as we get going, a lot of these things are so faint that you do need another atlas to try and think, what on earth is he referring to, right? So here you go. So remember, this thing's supposed to be easy, and remember all the other great objects that we have, okay? Number 7 is this escarpment down here. So you see what I mean? You know, I wouldn't make that number 7. I'd kind of make that back number 47. But there you go. So that was the first thing I noticed was I don't think the easiest things to see are necessarily the lowest numbers. So here's number 8. So I love this. You see, a crater sequence illustrating stages of degradation. So here we go. So this is the set of craters here. Notice we still haven't referenced probably some of our more famous craters that we probably are thinking of. And so if you start using the app, okay, then what you can do is you can actually zoom in and just, so you go up here and you can click in and you can say where I'm looking for Clavius. And then it'll come up and then you can just take the labels off. All right. So that here's my Clavius. So it says it's a basin which lacks features in spite of its size. I mean, what a load of codswallop. I mean, look at what we got. We got loads of features and stuff inside here. Now, the other thing to notice is that because it's a refractor, my image is reversed. So when I was looking at some of my maps, I'm going like, wait a minute, it's on the wrong side. And I put, so in actual fact, what I should do is I should go into Photoshop and I should flip these round so that they're a little bit easier to see. But the beauty of using the app is that you can also rotate this moon globe round to almost match the view that you are seeing. So if you're seeing the crater like this, you can tilt that moon globe app such that you get it at the same angle so that you can match things up. Or you could just do the Lunar 100 going through the app. Could be fun for a cloudy night. So there's Clavius. So number 10, and you know, I'd have put this at number 4 or whatever. But a mare so number 10, the famous mare Crisium, mare contained in a large circular basin. So nice, easy one to see. Number 11. Now, if I don't pronounce some of these correctly, I do apologize. I think is this Aristarchus? So it says a very bright crater with dark bands on its walls. And you can see exactly what they mean. It was only doing this Lunar 100 and searching them out that I came across this on the moon. And you do look at it and you go, oh yeah, that's a tad unusual. And I see what you mean about the dark bands here. It's also a really good example of what I call astronomy bog off. In other words, you buy one, you get one free, or in this case, you image one and you'll get a number out of it, because we're going to come back here again because some of these other features around it are also in the list. But I must say that this object was a bit of an eye-opener for me, because I'd never really paid much attention to the moon and sort of thinking, oh, that's an unusual thing to see. Okay, so then we get 12, which is that Proculus. So we've probably all seen these impact rays coming off of the surface here. So that's what they were referring to there. And then I love it. So now 13 is it Gassendi? And I love it. He goes, a floor fractured crater. So here we go. So we can see it a little bit more up in close up. The thing that gets me is we haven't got to Plato or anything yet. And he picks he picks this one. You can also see what I mean about having to go you don't go star hopping, you go crater hopping to just confirm that you're actually in the right place. And the other thing you've really got to watch, which came out when I was going back over my images, was I really need to make sure I get the camera always in the same orientation, because otherwise you end up doing a bit of contortion going, wait a minute, which way round is this? So number 14, yeah, here we go. The sinus iridium. So that's a nice image there. And again, if you look at the difference there between using the Toucam Pro and then putting the Luminera camera on it with a little bit more of magnification. This one is described as a very large crater with a missing rim. Very nice description, actually. And that image I quite like because it kind of gives to me a bit of a 3D feel. You can sort of almost see a bit of depth there. 15 is the straight wall. Easy when you know where to look for it. I love it. The description is a best example of a lunar fault. Okay, so do we think the easy ones have been first? Probably not. So then he goes on to 16. Now, I've deliberately, some of these I've got to go back and redo, but 16 is Petavius, I think. This is a crater with a dome and a fractured floor, but it's here. I mean, it's not exactly easy to find. And in actual fact, I went into the Moon app to try and find it. That is what he's referring to, that. Now, I think you'd be at great difficulty to spot that in a small telescope. That's well, you probably could on a clear night. Maybe Mr. Wood lived out in the middle of nowhere in the United States with no light pollution and lovely clear skies. But it's a small object and it's this thing, but it is number 16. Remember I said to you about my bog off, buy one, get one free. So number 17 is Schroeder's Valley. So there you remember we were looking at this part of the object. This was another one. And then, so this valley here. So he's called this a giant sinuous rill. And that's number 17. Then number 18 is talking about the Maria areas and the different dark edges. And so, again, this is something quite nice that you can actually just go in and it does make you, as it were, stop and take a look and see the differences. So we got here, you can see the dark and the lighter shades and everything. And again, it's probably something that we don't pay too much attention to. But what he's done is he's with the list, he's drawn your attention to that and said, hey, look, there's some dark edges around here. It's a bit lighter in there and so forth. Number 19, no, it's not the crater, not this wonderful crater, which for some reason hasn't occurred in the list yet. It's this Alpine Valley through here. So there it is. And again, this is just a more recent image that has just been done. So I love it. He calls it a lunar graben. Number 20, another interesting crater. You can see here. This has got, I love this, another floor fractured crater. So this is here. It does look a little bit unusual there, but that's what he's picked up. And then 21 is this crater, but it's got a subsided and a fractured floor. Well, it's this kind of bit sort of down here. And these ones are some of the challenges, really, because this is when you really got to zoom right in. And I think you really need some high magnification to pull some of these out. And I think a bigger telescope probably helps. Now, remember I said to you, we come back again. So remember, I've got 3 out of this image so far. I'm doing quite well. What's this? The Aristarchus Plateau. And I love the description. A mysterious uplifted region mantled with pyroclastics. I mean, sometimes I do wonder, is he smoking something when he comes up with some of these descriptions? But there you go. See, so I've got 3 out of that one image so far. Whoops, hold on. There we go. Now, remember this crater? Remember we were over here with the valley? Are we going to this crater? No, we are not. We are going to Pico. And it's this little rock, you might as well call it, here. Notice the lovely shadow, though, that you've got, which is good. I love it. So the description for this one is an isolated Imbrium basin ring fragment. Now, again, I couldn't believe it when I first did this. I thought, oh, Pico, I thought that must be the crater here. No, it's not the crater. It's this lump of little rock here. Why he picked that one and not that one, or this interesting shape down here, I do not know. And this is one of the things that I find a tad confusing with his list, but hey ho, rose to the challenge and I found it thanks to the extra maps. Then we've got another rill, which is round here. Another rill, I love it, a rill containing rimless collapsed pits. Again, what was he thinking? And then these two, these are lovely little ones, Messier and Messier A, which are the 2 tiny little craters here that you can just see them there. And I love it. He thinks that that's a ricochet impact pair. Well, if he thinks so. But again, he's just picked those ones up. And then 26 is Mare, is it Frigoris? So a mare, I love this, an acute mare of uncertain origin, this here. I mean, you could have called it the Great Divide or something, but no, he's just picked. And again, remember our crater here? So we've had our valley, we've had our little Pico here, and he's gone here, but he's not gone in there yet. Now there's a crater that we probably all know, which is Archimedes. So he's eventually pulled that into the list. And I love the description, a large crater lacking a central peak. I suppose he's saying that because this one to the right here does have a peak, but there you go. So we get Archimedes at number 27. We've then got Hipparchus at 28, which I didn't realize was the subject of the first drawing of a crater on the moon. And then he comes back to another rill. So he likes his rills. I think he must have had a big telescope with lots of magnification to do this. Now we're starting to move down towards the limb, and this is Schiller, a nice round sort of oval type crater, quite easy to spot that one. I mean, you get into a bit of a challenge down here because there are so many craters. You really do have to go crater hopping. And this is where the app is quite nice. You see, the app will show you the view, and so you can just double check with your image. And then he's got 31, which is Torrentus, which is, I love it. It's this crater here. It took me ages to track this one down in the app. And he calls it a young floor flat fractured crater, I suppose, because it's not so well visible as some of the others. These are volcanic domes. I don't think we know that there were volcanoes on the moon, but he's probably taken a little bit of artistic license with that. So that's Argo, Alpha, and Beta. And then something a little bit closer to home is the Serpentine Ridge. So that's along in here. So that's the basin of the inner ring segment. Now, you notice that many of these objects, they really are quite small and sort of, you could almost say insignificant. And then you get to 34, not on the best conditions. Now, this is Lacus Mortis, also known as the Lake of Death. And this is a strange crater with a rill and a ridge. So where the arrow is pointing is actually the crater, and then you've got, as it were, almost the hole that's in the middle there. So it is a bit unusual, and I say that is known as the Lake of Death. Then we got some more reels, which are just hidden down there at the bottom. And then we get to some of the real challenges, which is number 36, which you can see is right on the edge and is only going to be really visible near a full moon. And that's the Grimaldi Basin. So now you have to say to yourself, well, when do I know when it's going to be visible? And that's when the Moon Globe app is really useful, because what you can do is you can go into the Moon Globe app. So I put in Grimaldi, I put in tonight, so July the 21st, it is the 21st today, or it's 21st, well, okay, yesterday will do. And you can see that it's all in darkness. So I can't go looking for Grimaldi because it's not going to be visible. However, if I wait till the 24th, then Grimaldi should be visible to me. So that's when I'm going to have to go and find it. So for some of those that are a bit tricky to find because they're right on the edges, this is where the app is really quite useful. So you can save a bit of time. The other thing also to bear in mind is that some of these objects are really right on the edge. And so some of them you can get better views at different times. So we suffer with, as it says, lunar liberation. So it's the wagging or the wavering of the moon perceived by earthbound observers and is caused by changes in their perspective. So it permits an observer to see slightly different hemispheres of the surface at different times. So you can sometimes you can't see very much, and other times you can obviously see it a little bit better. And so for these objects, like number 36, I'll just go back here, that are on the edge, and you can see if you look at the list, particularly if you go down the bottom and you're looking at 96, 37, 94, 97, they're right on the edge, and you've got a plan when you can see them, and also you do have to work out whether you might be able to see them, but what sort of view are you going to get? So for example, here with 37, it's right on the edge. So the night that I imaged that, I should have waited probably another night. But then I get the problem, of course, that it's probably going to be cloudy. But there's Bailey. So that's what Bailey looks like. So I sort of caught it right on the edge when it wasn't really lit. But if I turn around on the app, you can see that it's actually a rather interesting crater. 38 are these two little impact craters here in the middle called Sabine and Rita. So he's described those as possible twin impacts. And then 39, at last, we've got a nice, interesting crater. Chicard is a crater floor with Oriental Basin eject stripes. Yeah, you can just about see them where the arrow is. You can just sort of see some lines sort of coming across. But at last we've got a nice crater to have a look at. And then he's back on his reels again. I love this. This is a rare example of a highland reel. Sounds like something out of Scotland, really, doesn't it? It is just that very, just that mark there where just by where the arrow is. Then something that's really easy to see doesn't come up until number 41, and that's of course the Bessel Ray, which is I love it, a ray of uncertain origin near Bessel. So again, very easy for us to see. I'd have given that quite a high number myself. And then 42 is the Marius Hills, not the interesting craters there, but as you can see just to the left there, where I put the arrow, a complex of volcanic domes and hills. 43 is another crater right off on the edge, a crater filled to the rim with ore ejector. So it's right on the edge there, just managed to catch that one, Morganton. And then is another crater, we've got Mucinus, another domed floor cut by secondary craters. Yeah, it's an interesting sort of shape in there, and there's another sort of crater in there, but what kind of makes that special from probably the other ones just around it? Number 45 is our region of saturation cratering. Yes, if anybody who's ever looked at the, as it were, the bottom of the moon, will notice that, you know, it's just tons and tons of craters there, which can be a bit of a challenge trying to identify some of them. And I love this. This is number 46. You got this, he calls this, was it the Region Montanus Central Peak, and another possible volcanic peak. Just highlighted there. You can see how you've really got to get your wits about you trying to find some of these. And he's then picked up the dark spots in Alphonsus. So you can see on the crater there, we've got some dark spots. That definitely isn't dirt on my chip. And I love his description: dark halo eruptions on the crater floor. 48 is the Koshi region. So again, it's faults, rills and domes. You could say it's not too exciting. And here's one that was a bit of a challenge. So this is number 49. So this is volcanic domes formed with viscous lava flows. I mean, he's got this thing about lava on the moon. Now, I really had to pull the app in place to really verify what it was that he was looking for. And you can see in the app, they're here. So I've put the app view in so that you can see. And the right-hand corner, it's these objects just over here where the arrows are. Those are the those are the actual objects that he's referring to. In fact, actually, sometimes the wide out view does make it a bit easier to see with the first one where the arrow is. But that's the specific objects that he is referring to. 40 is the Cayley Plains, light smooth plains of uncertain origin. Well, probably most stuff on the moon is uncertain origins. And I like this one. You have to look a little bit hard. In fact, I just realized I do have a better image of this somewhere. This is called the Davey crater chain. And I love it. He says it's the results of comet fragment impacts. If you look carefully, I've got this blown up on my 27-inch IMAX, so your resolution might be better than mine. But you can actually see like a line of craters sort of going across. And that's a rather nice object. I quite like that one. 52 is Kruger. So again, it's another one that's out here at full moon. And this is when I said there are now lots of references to things. So you can go to places like Wikipedia, for example. Wikipedia has a Lunar 100 list, and you'll find links on there to certain objects. So here's a link to Kruger. This is an image that was taken with Lunar Orbiter 4. So it should be rather nice. So it just gives you an idea of the sort of information that you can find on some of the other reference sites. 53 is Lamont, a possible buried basin. Okay, if you say so. And more reels, that's number 54. He's put some more reels here, concentric to the Humoran Basin, I believe that one is. So again, we got some more reels in there. And then 55 is Baco. Now, I was having great fun with Baco today, trying to get a more detailed view. I thought I had one, and I didn't. It's a tiny, tiny little crater right down here. That's definitely on my list to go back and do again. 56, Mar Austral, is a partially flooded ancient basin. I didn't know there was any flooding on the moon, but there you go. It's a nice basin just on the edge. And again, depending on the angle and so forth, might better open that up and get a better view. And then number 57 is Rhina Gamma, conspicuous swirl and a magnetic anomaly. Okay, does look a bit of a interesting type crater. And then 58 is the Rita Valley. So that's another basin secondary crater chain, it says. So there's another sort of list across there. And then we're getting, you see how we jump all over the place. So now we're back down almost we're at the bottom of the moon. You remember this, remember the crater here from before. This is Sheila, is it Viscous Basin? So that's that basin there. That's a badly degraded, overlooked basin. Yes, I could imagine it was overlooked because there's much more interesting things that are actually around it. And then it's back to our volcanic domes again. So Kai's Pi is there. So again, this is just another one of these domes. So it's very faint, very small. I mean, I think some of these would be a bit tough in a small telescope to do, and unless you were could get a lot of high mag on them. And then here's an easy one, Moosting A. It's a very small little crater. I love it. It says close to the center of the lunar near side, but it is that lovely little crater there that's just within, as it were, on the edge of the bigger crater, is Moosting A. Now we're back to the hills again and our large volcanic domes. I ignore the comments, but I actually quite like that view. I think that looks rather nice. And, you know, you look at it and you can start to sort of, you can almost imagine these rivers running down and so forth. Not that, of course, there is any running water, but it does kind of look rather nice. So, and then we're back to another basin ejection. He's, sometimes I think he's just desperate to stick a number in. 64, Descartes, that's the Apollo 16 landing site. So we put that one in. And then here, in number 65, he went to the domes, but actually, it's not the crater that he's interested in. It's actually the dome field north of the crater. So, and this is what he's after, is these bits along around here. So, faint small objects again. 66, lovely object. I'd have put it probably up at number 6 or 7. And that, of course, is the Hadley Reel. Lovely to see. You know, easy to find, and it looks really nice, and also it gives you an opportunity just to stop and look. You know, there's a V shape there or whatever. I mean, conspiracy theorists could have a whale of a time saying what they think might be in some of these craters here. And of course, the other thing to remember is that when you're doing this, if you look at the Hadley Reel when it's, you know, terminators close to it, and then after the terminators passed, you get to see all the different lights, different shadows. You can photograph it, you know, with a minimal amount of light on it, a lot of light on it, some light on it. So from a photography point of view, you know, you can photograph this many times in different light. And that's something to remember with any of these objects, that, you know, one day you might only get partial of crater lit, and then the next day you could have it fully lit. There's the Apollo, number 67 was the Apollo 14 landing site, and 68, another proposed young volcanic crater in the form of Flamsteed P. 69 is Copernicus, secondary craters. So he's now talking about the rays and craterlets near Pythias. So, and in fact, if you look at the more detailed object, detailed image here, you can start to sort of see the sort of rays that are starting to come off, and the small little craters that are around and so forth. But of course the moon is absolutely littered with all of those, so you can spend ages admiring them. We've now gone back to another basin. I love it, a multi-ring impact basin. Again, bit of a challenge because it's right on the edge. So I tend to look at the craters in the foreground here, which I think are a tad more interesting. And now, wait for it, we now have ash eruptions. Again, I was unaware that there were any ash eruptions on the moon, but you can see those grey bits there. He thinks that's what that is. So he's put in for 71 for the dark mantle ash eruptions northwest of a crater. Then we've got the Atlas dark halo craters. These are explosive volcanic pits on the floor of Atlas. Yeah, it looks, you can see those bits there. It reminds me a little bit sometimes of ruins that you see of sort of Roman amphitheatres and Greek amphitheatres and so forth. I'm sure if Patrick Moore was alive, I dread to think what he would have thought about all these comments about volcanoes and so forth, but it's the man's opinion. 73 is very difficult to observe, again, because it's right on the edge. And again, it's another basin. Whereas 74 is Copernicus H, and that's a dark halo impact crater. So again, it's a small little crater just beneath it. And then we get to 75, and he's not interested in the main crater. He's interested in the saucer-like depression on the floor of the crater. I think it's a rather nice crater myself, actually. And again, you know, I look at that, but then I stop to admire the view around it. So I go down to the bottom right-hand corner. We've got another little crater there with, you know, sort of central point. Go up to 12 o'clock of the crater. We've got a better one there. Head out to 11 o'clock, and you've got a half-lit crater over there. We can see some rills coming off. Heading down to sort of 7 o'clock, we've got a crater with another little crater with a half, again, half lit. We've got some nice little lines coming through. The whole thing looks quite interesting. I'm sure I could grab about 10 images out of, 10 objects out of there. And in fact, just above the red line, there's another nice little group of craters. There's a couple of craters in a line. So I must confess, when I found some of these objects, I thought, that's interesting, but I think I kind of like some of the other stuff that's around it. This is Bond, a large crater degraded by Imbrium ejecta. So again, looking at it from different views here, you can see, so I've come at it from a couple of different views, but again, it's just that side. And then 77 is another one of the reels, again, right over here at full moon. There it is. So on the Moon Globe app, you can see there's the crater, and then here would be our reels coming through. So that's why I say sometimes the app is quite nice, actually. Now, wait for it. 78 Lambert R. That is a buried ghost crater. Okay. Didn't know there were any ghost craters. And 79 is the eastern dark mantle of volcanic deposits. So again, you can see here. And if you look at the image, it kind of could be. You can see you've got dark and lighter areas, and it looks like it's sort of come out maybe from some form of eruption. And then 80 is Oriental Basin. And again, where is 80? You see my challenge? Where is 80? Where is 80? Can't find 80. But if I use the Moon app, there we go. There's the basin. I've left the labels on just so you know which one is which. But you just go up into the app and you just click off terrain, and the labels will disappear. What I think is disappointing is that, you know, if we just take a look here, there's a lovely crater there called Maunder. I'm sure loads of people would love to include a Maunder crater in there. We've got Lowell crater, you know, but he's not included those. But he has included, what's this one? Is it Hesiodus A? And that is a concentric crater. So this crater has won the lottery in that it's got included. And I absolutely adore number 82. This is a small crater once thought to have disappeared. Okay, so just look at it. And it's not my image, because you can see the other craters are reasonably sharp. So yeah, small crater once thought to have disappeared, but that's Lynn. We get to the Plateau craterlets. So again, and I have to smile with this, because in the guide it says the crater pits are at the limit of detection. Well, maybe, but I think a lot of his other objects were at, you know, kind of limits of detection. But anyway, there we go. That's 83. 84 is that Pitatus? A crater with concentric rills. Here we go. And 85, we got some rays. This is an aged ray system. Yep, I suppose it would be, because the moon is a tad old. Remember this image right back from the beginning? Look, I've got 4 out of this one image. This is the Prinz Reel. So these are the ones just over to the right here. It's a reel system near the crater Prinz. So there we go. So you see, I got 4 out of that one image. So that was quite a good deal. 87 was Humboldt. Another one right on the edge. It's a crater, as it says, with central peaks and dark spots. Now, I had fun with number 88, because 88 I could never find on my map. And I swore that it had to have been missing. I spent ages and ages trying to find 88, and I couldn't find it. So I had to go to the app, and I went to the app, and it's this crater right on the edge. And I think that's probably why it's not on the map, because it is so difficult. I mean, I've just said that it's almost impossible to observe it. But that was it. I mean, I would hope that in the latest editions that number 88 is no longer missing from the map, but it was certainly missing from my map. Just getting to the end here. So we've got 89, which is the Valentine Dome. Again, another small crater that was once thought to have disappeared. Looks that one there. Then we've got Armstrong, Aldrin and Collins, which are a couple of small craters very close to the Apollo 11 landing site. 91, we've got some more rills in there. This is an area with many rills. Why he picked on this one, I don't know. Then you get up here to 92, it's at the Gildan Valley. So that was quite nice, just tucked away in there. But why pick that one? And for example, not one of the ones over here on the left. 93, he's put some more rays in, some unusual and rare dark rays. Okay. 94 is that Drakalski? A large South Pole region crater, again, really hard to get to. 95 is a basin. This is the moon's biggest basin. So why he put it in 95, I don't know, because you would have thought it had been at number 4. But there you go. That's 95. Maybe that was an afterthought for him. 96 is the Leibenitz Mountains, right on the rim of the South Pole. So, you know, quite a challenge when they're right down there. 97, again, is right on the edge. You can see I've not had a lot of luck trying to get some of these right on the edge. But again, go into the app and the app will show me where it is. I should point out that the app doesn't know about all of them. If they're craters, you'll find the craters it knows, but some of the reels and other object names he doesn't know. But what you can do is, if you know, for example, that the reel is near a crater, if you put the crater name in, then you can usually work it out on the map on the app. So you can look at the screen on the app and just work it out from there. Just down to the last couple now. So we've got 98. This is the Imbrium lava flows, if you say so. Okay. 99 is a D-shaped young volcanic caldera. Okay, I say he was convinced about volcanoes. And last one, number 100, I love it, is possible magnetic field deposits. I'm glad that I actually haven't got to justify any of these descriptions, and I really shouldn't poke fun at him really, but so hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into these interesting objects on the moon. If you're looking for the actual map itself, you can now download a PDF copy. Again, Google Lunar 100 and a lot of these references will come up, and that give you a nice PDF map that you can have a look at. But as I say, now you know, there's entries on Wikipedia and so forth for it. This is the Moon Globe app that I was using. I don't know if it is still. I don't know if it is still free. This is the works on iPhone and iPad. Just a word of advice: you can rotate the dome round, so you can rotate the globe round, which is really useful. But then all of a sudden, you can lose your orientation if you're trying to work out whether something is going to be visible. You just pinch it, and you can just zoom in. You can rotate it around. To be perfectly honest, if you were bored and wanted to do the 100, you could just have fun. I think just doing it with the Moon Globe. If you're on an Android device, I went into Google Play, and there's Moon Globe 3D and Lunar Map HD and so forth. So there are other ones available that I'm sure something would do the job. So in summary there, I found this was quite a good way to learn about the moon, although as you can see probably from some of my comments, he kind of missed off some of my most famous craters, which I kind of would have expected to do, expected to be there. But the really nice thing is that you don't really need any expensive equipment to do it. You don't even need a driven telescope. You can just, go at it with the moon. And so it's something that we can encourage anyone to have a go at, although maybe trying to find some of them could be a bit of a challenge. But you could set people a challenge of, maybe find 25 craters or whatever, popular ones. It is something to do when the moon is up, as a deep sky imager, I don't curse the moon. It's like, okay, so the moon's up. So, okay, I can actually do some imaging this month. It's not a lot. It's a thing that not many people have done as well. There's a few people. So, as I say, I'm going back and I'm revisiting it again with my C11 to get some more sort of high res images. But, having done it, I think I would actually, to be honest, prefer to actually build up my own list of favorite objects. So I hope you found this a little bit interesting this evening. It is something a little bit different. And thank you very much for inviting me, because I live just outside Southampton, although I will say I've been up and down the M1 and the M6 more times in the last 10 days than I think I have ever done. So, but thank you very much. And if you've got any questions, be gentle with me, because I only took the images, and I'm just going to stop my screen sharing.
I was going to say, go. Lillian, thank you very much for a very interesting talk and a very interesting commentary on the gentleman's views. I think Patrick Moore was renowned for holding on to the idea of volcanic activity on the moon, and he only started changing his mind after the Apollo landings. But this gentleman seems to have held on to it right into the 21st century. Have you come across the Royal Canadian Astronomical Society's publication on observing the moon with a small telescope?
I think I may have seen it.
I find it a very interesting publication. I've just got it up on my thing. I'm just scrolling. It's the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada explore the moon with a small telescope. I've got to say that what I like about it is that it gives you where to look on the terminator from night to night, and it's arranged the object so that you can, if you're lucky enough to have a whole month's worth of nice evenings, you can go out each evening and roughly look where the terminator is, and it will tell you what to be looking for at the best illumination. It would be interesting to cross-reference the two lists to see if you could get a better reference to the objects in the 100. Because
to be honest, I think he's missed off some really key craters.
Well, yes.
And so, but I'm sure in the Canadian list they're there.
Yes, I mean the big four down the eastern edge. I don't think, maybe Gassendi was mentioned, and that was about the only one. So yeah, there were a lot of missing objects. I was surprised, but yeah, the Royal Canadian, the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada explore the moon with a small telescope. It's a really interesting guide. We've got questions now. As always, if you can put a digital hand up, that will be lovely. Otherwise, wave at me. I have got a couple of screens to go backwards and forwards to. Just before we go to the public, Lillian, your original photographs have a bit of a blue cast about them. Was that on purpose, or is it just?
Oh, it may be something to do with processing.
Right. Okay. So
I noticed it when I pulled the presentation up, because I haven't given this talk for a little while, and I pulled the presentation up and I thought, ooh, where did those blue tinges come from? So I thought, well, actually, I need to go back and sort my images out anyway. So.
Right. Okay. I was just wondering where the first one. I think it was
one of the rays one, definitely.
Yeah,
it was quite pronounced.
Yeah, I noticed it. Well, we've got Peter Lloyd from Doncaster AS. Peter, can you unmute yourself, please, and can we have your question?
Thank you, Lillian. An entertaining talk. Simple question: Do you not know Chuck Wood?
I know of him.
I mean, he's one of the world's leading lunar experts, and a great one for disseminating of information. And I think the point about his Lunar 100 is not the most scenic or the most fun objects. They're the most interesting objects from the point of view of lunar studies. And you made a lot of about sort of volcanic things, and was it Paul commented that he seemed to be holding on to the volcanic theory? It's actually the exact opposite to that. At one time, everybody thought craters were formed as were volcanic craters, and it became apparent actually from about 1890, but everybody ignored it till about 1960, that they're not volcanic craters, they're impact craters. So it now becomes interesting to say, well, is there any volcanic activity on the moon at all? And the answer is yes, there is, but they're tiny little craters, and it's worth looking for them. And you do get these sort of volcanic deposits and so on. And looking at some of your images, I might comment that for instance, the one you showed of Hadley Reel didn't actually show Hadley Reel. And there were others where you said, well, you really can't see anything here. I think if you took it with different lighting, I mean, you said that the western side's only visible at full moon. It's from full all the way to new moon, all through that part. And certainly Mare Orientale, which is a difficult one because you need the libration that you talked about to find it. And I happen to be very lucky and get a beautiful view of it because the libration was as perfect as it could be. The lighting wasn't quite perfect. It was a bit too near third quarters and the light was coming straight down, so there weren't any shadows. But nevertheless, it's one of those challenges to find it when all the situations turn out correctly. Oh, and I would recommend you get hold of a book by Chuck Wood called The Modern Moon, if you haven't come across it. It's difficult to find because it's out of print now, which is a great shame. But you can buy it secondhand for about 3 times the price it was originally. And it's, in my opinion, the best book on the moon that's ever been published. And it's written in his typical flowing style, very simple, and he sets it out. And I think you'll understand a lot more of the things that seem to be puzzling you if you can get hold of that one.
Thank you.
And also the virtual moon atlas would be, in my view, the sort of definitive online atlas, which would have, I think, all the things. It won't run on your phone, so it's not quite like the app in that sense. And the problem with your app is it always shows an overhead view of the craters, and that's, of course, not the view you get from Earth. So yes, it shows what the crater's really like, but it doesn't help you necessarily find it.
No, but it's, I mean, when the advantage of the app is that when I'm out at the telescope,
yeah,
it's something portable that I can, particularly if it's on the phone, it's something portable I can take with me, rather than trying to be fiddling with books and so forth at the telescope. Well,
you have the VMA on a computer sitting beside it. The same one that's doing the imaging. Well, thank you for your talk anyway.
I'm looking around for questions, for hands up, and I'm not seeing anything. Not even anything from John Leach. I would have thought he would have been full of questions. It might be because he was late in.
Yes, I was late. Lillian, I thoroughly enjoyed that. Anything to do with the moon or the sun now, or anything. I'm very late in sort of catching up with astronomy. I found it fascinating. I record the moon at every opportunity, at any time of day or night. And one of the things that confuses me is the number of objects on there that I just don't recognise. So your talk tonight really has opened up, possibility. You're looking at an app maybe. I've just checked on the book that Peter suggested. It's £631 new, or it's £446 second hand.
I think you found an extreme there, John. Yeah, I think you can pick it up for about £70.
Yeah.
I bought it new for $30.
But what I found since I've been sort of doing this astronomy, it's about 18 months now. It's cost me my grandchildren's inheritance, And I have several.
It's a personal choice. I'm sorry.
I started looking at McNichol's sort of solar sort of stuff. So I started looking at that. And, within a week, I'd already spent £65 on a book. But your suggestion, I've never thought of looking at apps. So I shall certainly start to have a look at the apps. So thank you very much indeed.
Okay, Roy Gunson.
Yeah. On about books, I mean, one I use is this one by Peter Grego, The Moon and How to Observe It. And that's got some nice descriptions of the features that we've been talking through today in a bit more detail, and it breaks it up into different areas. But that has some really good descriptions of features you can see with a reasonable telescope. Something like a 4 or a 6 inch.
Okay, I'm looking around for questions, and I'm not seeing any. So, oh, we have William.
Yes, just wondering, all the pictures you showed were taken in black and white, monochrome camera. Have you used colour at all?
I do sometimes put my colour camera on, but I must confess I'm primarily a black and white person. But I have just bought a one-shot colour camera.
Right. Yeah, I just wondered if there were some features that perhaps came out, because I know some people sometimes stretch the colour a lot to try and bring out particular features, the actual minerals that the moon is composed of. Not something I've tried myself, I have to say.
I might butt in a comment. Sorry, Paul.
Well, I was just about to say that a few of our members have tried it, and I think we have examples on our Facebook site. So if you want to go from our website to our Facebook site, just scroll down a couple of 3 months, and I believe that there are 2 or 3 examples of where people have stretched the saturation and the contrast to bring out those details, and they get some very, very interesting views. So get some very pleasing images. Peter, Lloyd, you were about to say.
I was only going to comment that stretching the colours is actually not as easy as it sounds. When I first came and spoke to your society, Paul, some time ago, I seem to remember showing a picture and saying, you just take a picture with a colour camera and turn the saturation up to full, and you get this garish thing which shows all this so clearly. I tried to repeat that and have failed dismally. So it just isn't quite that simple. But what it can do, it can show you actually the different chemical compositions of the lava flows. It seems to me quite extraordinary that an amateur with ordinary sort of equipment, nothing very special, can actually look at it and say, this is a lava with high titanium content, and here it's butting up against one with low titanium contents, all thanks to the Apollo program, I must admit. Yeah, so you can get some interesting stuff, although they're fairly garish pictures usually.
Okay. Tony Morris.
Just for William, there's a number of tutorials on the internet with respect to getting colour in lunar images. There's a really good tutorial on the PixInsight forum, and you don't have to have PixInsight. It just tells you the techniques for getting the colour hues out of apparently monochrome images.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, William. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking around and making one last pass for questions. So if you're desperate to ask Lillian a question at this stage, now is the moment. No? So, can we give Lillian a huge Bexman Swinton Astronomical Society? Thank you for an absolutely entertaining and informative talk. Thank you very much, Lillian.
You're welcome. Thank you.